All right, here's the DEF CON 23 shoot badge. You got a custom lanyard, white text. The text is glow in the dark. You might want to charge it up with a camera flash to help that out. There's a clip on the end that helps shorten up the lanyard. So if you want this badge to be above your other badges around your neck and won't flop around so much. We got a sponsorship from Ballistic Tools. You can thank Gigs on the Forum. You got two buttons, a mic, and a tilt sensor with the 6-digit 7-segment display. You got 4 AA's on the back. That had to be required because of the voltage to sync enough current to make the display bright enough. So you'll get 2 sets of AA batteries, so 8 in total. The battery life is around 12 hours or so, so it shouldn't be too bad. And you can press and hold both buttons, and it'll put it to sleep to save a ton of current. It basically draws no current in this mode. That way you don't have to pop out the batteries if you don't want to. To wake it back up, you just press start by itself, and it'll start back up. When the badge is powering up, let me pop the batteries here. See DEF CON shoot and all nines. You can push start during the DEF CON shoot phase, and it'll show you the code version. So right now I'm on 2.2. It's pretty quick. You got to be fast about it. That way, if I have new code versions out, you can find me and I'll flash and update the code for you. You can also basically wipe out all your stored flash. So any saved settings or anything else, you won't wipe out the actual code. But if you press both buttons and then pop the batteries, you'll see that all dashed horizontal lines. And it would basically reset all the settings. If something happens and you don't know how to fix it, you can try that first. All right, so let's go through the modes. When you first start up, you'll be dumped into shot counter mode. That's what this is. So you can tell, obviously, every time I clap, the shots go up, the counter goes up rather, and then also these decimal points increase from left to right, and then slowly fall back off, just kind of like a VU meter. You can set the display of this if you go into set digit. So I can change this if I want to be at a certain level. First mode in the options menu, hit select to get to options. It shows count, so let's select that by hitting start. Now we're in count up mode. You can switch the speed of this by going to the speed settings. Let's bump it up to 7. If you hit start in this mode, it'll switch to countdown mode. And again, if you want to count down from a certain number, I already went past it, set digit will work. So let's say I want to count down from 800, 10,800. So the next mode is shot timer mode. The M looks a little messed up because I have 7-segment display. So it starts with press start. Press start, the screen goes black. It goes black for a random amount of time. This is where you'd begin to draw once the display starts. This is the shot number, and this is seconds, tenths, seconds, hundreds of seconds. So when you fire or when the mic picks up a noise, it increments the shot number and restarts the timer. And you can go up to 16 shots up to F. If you don't want to go that far, you can just hit start to go back and review them. So the first shot took me 8.68 seconds. Between the first shot and the second shot, it took me 5.41 and so on. Next up in the menu is random mode. Pass shot. Shot is the default mode we already went over. So this is probably a little too fast since I'm still on speed 7, I think. Let's bring it down to 3. So to start, it scrolls left to right. If you hit start again, it scrolls right to left. And if you hit start one more time, it does all digits randomized. And as we saw, you can swap the speed. Let's bump it up to 5 maybe. There's not a lot to that. In this mode, like the other modes, if you look at the decimal points, it kind of crawls left to right. You got to make a louder noise to make them all light up and slowly fall off. It's kind of hard to see in this mode though. Next up is height mode. So I assume people are going to wonder what the hell this badge is about. So you go into height mode, it just shows DEF CON shoot. It's pretty basic, not a lot else to show you there. Past height mode is audio mode. So this just basically reads the mic loudness value and dumps it to the screen at the speed setting refresh rate. So you probably want to slow this down, maybe to 1. The other thing you can do is just press and hold start, and then you'll just record the maximum value until you release start. So this helps you set the threshold later on, which I'll get into. You'll want to know how loud the mic is picking up a certain noise. So those are the main options. Past audio is set digit. So set digit works in count up, count down, and shot modes. Tilt, we'll just reverse the logic of the tilt sensor. If that's your thing. We actually use that later on in a couple of the play settings. Threshold is the microphone threshold. So right now it's at the 20. This is pretty much the lowest. You might want to bump this up if your shots aren't registering or if your claps aren't registering. Gunshots are normally in the 5 to 6 to 700 range. Again, you go back to audio mode, you do a gunshot, you figure out how loud it is, and then you want to set this threshold a little bit under whatever that value is. You can press and hold to kind of cycle through it because it's annoying to go through all of them. Off is just mute. It won't detect a shot no matter what. Past the threshold is speed settings. Again, this kind of affects nearly every mode. Normally it's exponential in most modes. Brightness is a screen brightness. By default, it's high. You can bring it down to medium or dim. I suggest keeping it on high if you're going to do anything with the microphone, if any of the modes read the microphone for any reason. For some reason, if you set the screen to dim, the microphone reads artificially high, which can mess up your thresholds and other shot detection. You notice along the bottom when I'm going through these option menus, this decimal point kind of crawls left to right. I'll start it over. So this is the start of the option menu. And you can get a sense of how far through the option menu you are because it's easy to get lost and you can only go one way. So next up is play, which is actually a sub menu because this options menu is getting too long. This is a reaction-based game. So it starts with ready, it goes black for a random amount of time and starts counting up. The minute it starts counting up, you want to press start and it'll stop the counter. You'll fail if it goes to 500. So you should be able to get around low 40s if you're good with it. If you hit start too soon, you automatically fail out. Next up in the play menu is dodge. So I'm this little guy on the left, this little horizontal line I can move up and down, and I'm going to want to dodge these other blocks coming in. I have that decimal point signifies like a nuke, like a weapon I can use. So if I hit the mic, I kind of clear everything on screen, and eventually I'll crash into something and fail. It keeps getting faster and faster, so don't think you're a pro just because you dodged the first couple. It shows your score at the end there. Next up in the play menu is the temperature sensor. Like I described in the manual, it's pretty sucky. Each badge has to be independently calibrated, and you're really supposed to calibrate each one with a 2-point calibration at 2 different temperatures. On top of that, the ADC readings are 1 degree centigrade or more apart, so it's practically useless. I just threw this in there because it's a free feature of the chip. So it's not going to read really anything practical until you set an offset. And as the battery drains, you're going to have to recalibrate it every single time. So you push start and you get to this calibration offset menu. You push start in here to go up, select to go back down. So it's reading 8 degrees. It's not 8 degrees in here. Let's crank it up to 23. That mode automatically times out. So that was a little bit too high. Let's bring it back to 17. And that's somewhere in the ballpark. Again, you have to constantly recalibrate it. As you enter the temperature mode, it reads the battery level to attempt to get the right offset based on the voltage level. But again, without 2-point calibration, it's not going to be perfect. So you're going to have to just deal with it, I guess, or not use it. Next up is the battery mode. So this gives you a sense of how dead your batteries are. Right? You start around 1.6 volts for alkalines and go to 1.2, 1.1 before things start to get bad. This board worked down to around 4 volts, I think. You'll notice the display start getting a little dim, around 4.5. So you might want to swap batteries then. Sound mode is kind of cool. It is kind of like an equalizer effect, bringing it up from the middle. So it looks better if you speed it up. So again, like most modes, it's based on the speed. So you can see it kind of getting pulled up from the middle. The decimal points are always on. So if you're in a loud area or a club or something, this might look kind of cool. You can switch the loudness value. It's kind of like how sensitive the mic is, in a similar way that we do the temperature offset and battery offset. You push start and it shows loud 0. It will automatically time out and use that value. So we can bump this up. The higher value this is, the less sensitive the mic will be. So you'll have to have a much louder noise now for it to trip. So you probably want to keep it pretty low. Next up in the play menu is clap mode. So I'm assuming you know what a clapper is, otherwise you can Google it. By default, it's 2 claps to turn it on. On the left, it shows you the number of claps detected. So if you only clap once, it'll time out and go back to 0. If you clap too many times, it won't flip the state either. You can switch the number of claps by hitting start. Again, this auto times out and stores whatever value is shown. So if you want to set it to 5 claps, and it'll flip the state. You notice the decimal points are kind of the inverse of what you might expect. We're going to need that if you do any external relay control. So next up in the play menu is the Morse code mode. By default, there's 23 built-in strings. You can enter actually your own string if you want to have it blink out a custom value. I think number 1 is SOS. This is affected by the speed setting, so you can slow this down. And I'll show you how to enter a custom string. Since it is kind of annoying, again, with 2 buttons, I don't have a lot of great user interface work going on. So you go past 22, it shows custom. So hit start to select that. P is the position in the array, C is the current character. So we're going to hit select to increment which character we want. 0 would be A, I think 25 is Z, and then it goes 0 through 9, so all the way up to 35. After that is done if you want to end the string. So if you want to do A, we hit start. Now it goes to the next position. Now we can go to B by going to 1, B, C, D, E, F, and so on. After you go to done, it will begin to blink out that string that you just entered. So here's what you can do with the badge after the con or even during the con with an external relay. So on the top side, I got a 12-volt power source. On the bottom, I'm hooking that to pin 10 and 15, I believe. Something like that. It's on the forums anyway. So here is clapper mode. You notice the decimal points are all on when the badge is off or when the clapper's off, and the opposite is true when you flip the state. The reason is because the LED segments are on the cathode side and they're syncing to the chip. So when the chip wants to light up a digit, it sets it low to ground that pin, and when it doesn't want to light a digit, it sets it high. That's the opposite of what you want for a relay, so that's why that's inverted. Anyway, with this hooked up, you can clap twice. I should turn on my LED power strip. Boom. And back off. Okay, here's Morse code mode. So if you notice, the tilt sensor setting was configured, so it's going to kind of blink the inverse of what you'd normally expect. So you'll notice when the display is blinking, my LED strip is off, and vice versa. So that way you can hook this up to your Christmas tree lights or something, and the LED strip is going to blink the way you'd expect it to. So here's the sound mode and what you can do with an external relay. The tilt mode is set, so all the display, every digit in the display is set the same. And as I make a noise, the display is going to go off versus the inverse of what we did last time where they light up as you make a noise. I've got a little solenoid hooked up here, so when I clap, that should trip it. Pew! Pew! I think you guys can figure out something fun to do with that.